I spent 2 years building a medical AI that could diagnose rare diseases faster than any human doctor. Last Friday, I found out it was launching without my name attached. When I joined Havex Labs, a biotech startup in Boulder, Colorado, I wasn't chasing money. I wanted to change lives. And I did. I created Vireo, an AI-powered diagnostic system trained on decades of complex, underrepresented medical data. But right before our FDA submission, my name was wiped from the system's ownership logs. No warning. No explanation. My name is Leona Ray, and until 72 hours ago, I was Havex's lead AI engineer. Now, I'm the woman they tried to erase. And I'm not going quietly. I wasn't supposed to end up in biotech. I studied applied machine learning at Carnegie Mellon, spent a few years at Amazon Health, and left because I couldn't stomach how often innovation got buried under bureaucracy. At 28, I moved to Boulder with one suitcase, one offer letter, and one wild idea that artificial intelligence could save lives before symptoms even appeared. Havex Labs was small but promising, founded by 2 ex-pharma execs and funded by a quirky group of angel investors out of San Francisco. They wanted disruption. I wanted purpose. Vireo was my brainchild. I named it after a migratory bird that senses atmospheric changes before storms. My Vireo was trained on edge case medical data, things most models ignored. It could detect autoimmune markers from voice patterns, identify rare cancers from skin anomalies, and flag undiagnosed neurological disorders weeks before traditional imaging. I coded obsessively, ate noodles out of mugs, slept on the office couch too many times. But I believed in it, not just as a product, but as a paradigm shift in early diagnosis. For 24 months, I lived inside that algorithm. It wasn't just code. It was a compass pointing to a better future. So when it disappeared from my hands, it wasn't just theft, it was erasure. Things started to feel off about 3 months before the launch. Meetings that used to include me were suddenly rescheduled without explanation. When I asked, I was told it was just partner side alignment. Investors were flying in, they said. Too many moving parts. Stay focused on the code. Then, our CEO, Callum Reese, started showing unusual interest in the system's deployment layer, a part he'd previously called Leona's Kingdom. I caught him once in my dev environment while running benchmarks late at night. He brushed it off as a harmless double-check. Standard protocol before FDA submission, he said with that polished California boy smile. Legal's all over us. Still, I added another layer of logging, quietly, just for myself. A week later, I noticed one of the Git repositories had been duplicated. The commit history was stripped. It looked like a full mirror of Vireo's decision engine, but stored in a private Havex-owned repo labeled Beta Sigma. No one told me. When I brought it up in a Friday check-in, Callum just blinked, then gave me that tone I now associate with manipulation wrapped in charm. Leona, you worry too much. It's a sandbox fork for audit testing. Completely harmless. Except it wasn't harmless. It was the beginning of the rewrite, the one with my name quietly omitted from every metadata string and authorship tag. And I wasn't supposed to notice. It happened on a Tuesday. I was asked to join a compliance review with Callum and our legal director, Mara Silva, in the conference room with the frosted glass, always a bad sign. When I walked in, my badge deactivated behind me. Mara slid a thick folder across the table, expression unreadable. Leona, as of today, your engagement with Havex Labs is concluded. I blinked. I'm sorry, what? Callum, leaning against the window with a view of the Flatirons, chimed in. This isn't personal. It's strategic. We're restructuring our technical leadership ahead of FDA rollout. You'll receive a generous exit package. We appreciate your contributions. I opened the folder. $150,000 severance. No equity. No ownership. No mention of Vireo. I looked up. I built the system from scratch. My design, my data model, my architecture. Mara responded calmly, flipping to a clause in my original contract. Section 9.4, all intellectual property developed during employment, using company time or resources, belongs solely to Havex Labs. Classic startup trap. The kind they bury between stock vesting schedules and wellness benefit clauses. But I started Vireo before I ever signed with Havex, I said, my voice sharper now. I have time-stamped models from before I ever stepped foot in this office. Callum's smile didn't reach his eyes. You may have had a prototype, but the system that's going to market, that's ours. You were compensated. Consider this a generous closure. Closure? They didn't just want me gone. They wanted my legacy gone too. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. That's what they were prepared for. Drama, desperation, lawyers maybe. A woman too emotionally attached to her work. Instead, I nodded. Understood, I said, tucking the folder into my bag. Thank you for the opportunity. Callum's eyes narrowed for a split second. She's not fighting. Then relaxed. Security walked me out. I carried a small cardboard box filled with a few plants, a half-dead external SSD, and a coffee mug that said "Code like a girl." I walked past the lobby touchscreen already advertising the upcoming Havoc's Vireo platform reveal. The product I built. Now theirs. On paper, anyway. But what Callum didn't know was that 6 months ago, after noticing his unauthorized repo mirror, I'd embedded a series of passive integrity checks into Vireo's core. Quiet, hidden, and completely inert, unless the authentication chain was broken. Like, say, if someone removed me from it, they wouldn't notice it during testing. It was designed not to trigger until external validation environments, the FDA sandbox or investor demo environments, attempted to run the live pipeline. That's when the ghost in the system would wake up, not to destroy anything, just to observe, and then to respond. The call came at 2:07 a.m., 2 nights after I was terminated. My phone buzzed with a number I hadn't saved but instantly recognized. Mara Silva. I let it ring out. 20 minutes later, a message. We're experiencing a critical system issue during FDA testing. Can you call us back urgently? I didn't reply. By 9 a.m., I had 3 voicemails. By 11 o'clock, a black Escalade showed up outside my apartment in North Boulder. Inside, waiting, was Callum. Gone was the polished confidence. His collar unbuttoned, his hair messy. Panic softened his usual smugness. I need your help, he said, skipping pleasantries. I let him talk. The FDA test environment keeps failing. The system is flagging itself. It's identifying Havoc's own patient datasets as synthetic. The demo build is generating false positive diagnoses, weird ethical breach logs, and recursive validation loops we can't turn off. I nodded slowly. Huh, Leona, he said tightly. Whatever you did, undo it. I tilted my head. I didn't do anything. You removed a critical piece of the authorization chain. Vireo did exactly what it was trained to do, flag irregularities and defend system integrity. He rubbed his temples. You built a sabotage mechanism. No, I said calmly. I built a defense system. It just finally realized what the threat was. He stared at me for a moment, the pieces finally locking into place. You knew this might happen. I didn't know, I said. But Vireo did. We sat in the same conference room where I was fired, this time. I chose the seat at the head of the table. Callum looked like he hadn't slept. Mara had joined the call remotely. I could see the panic in her clipped tone, her lawyerly composure fraying at the edges. I plugged in my encrypted USB. No source code. No overwrite script. Just a small patch, an authentication handshake designed to re-establish system trust. I assume you want the demo tomorrow to go smoothly? I asked, leaning back. Yes, Callum muttered. Then let's discuss terms. He didn't respond, so I continued. I want the following. Full recognition as Vireo's creator and lead architect. 51% patent ownership. Equity retroactively reinstated at 7%. A permanent CTO seat. And all internal references to the Beta Sigma fork permanently deleted. Callum flinched at the list. You're asking for too much. I didn't blink. This isn't a negotiation. This is your fire alarm. I'm the one holding the extinguisher. He looked at the USB on the table like it might explode. And if we don't agree? I smiled. Then Vireo stays locked in recursive error mode. And the FDA gets a full anomaly report, along with a summary of internal data handling irregularities that the system logged. Automatically, of course. Silence. Then Mara's voice crackled from the speaker. We'll draft terms by end of day. But I want that patch now. I slid the USB closer, but not across the table. When the terms are signed, I said. Not a minute sooner. Callum exhaled hard and nodded. For the first time, he was the one cornered. The next morning, Vireo ran flawlessly. The system parsed 1.2 million medical records in under 5 minutes during the FDA demonstration, correctly flagging 97% of simulated anomalies, including 4 intentionally mislabeled cases designed to test its ethical bias filters. The reviewers were stunned. One of them turned to Callum. "How did you train it to handle such complex diagnostic nuance?" He paused, then turned slightly toward me, seated beside him for the first time, not beneath him. "You'll want to ask Leona Ray. It was her vision from day one. It wasn't a thank you, but it was a beginning." 3 months later, Vireo became the first AI diagnostic tool approved for use in emergency triage across 7 U.S. hospital systems. A pilot rollout in Seattle caught 2 early-stage cancers in under a week, patients who would have gone undiagnosed for months. Callum shifted to focus on business development, which frankly, he was actually good at. We didn't speak much beyond what was necessary. That was fine by me. We weren't friends. We were balanced. Looking back, people ask me if I regret not suing Havex or blowing the whistle when I had the chance. I don't. Because in the end, I didn't just win back credit. I kept control of the ethics. The system now has internal watchdog logic, code that not only detects bias or misuse but reports it automatically, even if I'm gone. We've created a board of rotating ethicists, clinicians, and patient advocates. Vireo doesn't just diagnose, it protects. From the inside, like it was always meant to. Last week, at a medical innovation summit in Austin, a young software engineer came up to me after my talk. "What's your advice for building something that can't be stolen?" I smiled. "Build it so well that the system itself knows who built it." Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever created something that someone tried to take from you? A project, a business, even an idea? What would you have done in my place? Walked away? Taken it public? Fought in court? Or like I did, outsmarted them from the inside? Drop your story in the comments. Let's talk about what it really means to protect what's ours. It's not just about building something revolutionary. It's about making sure no one can ever rewrite history without your name in the code.